Guy Ritchie, to me, is one of the more consistent makers of quality entertainment still working today when he gets to make what he wants. I really liked The Gentleman, both the movie and the series that was on Netflix that he put out last year, even if I had some nitpicky issues with it. So I was excited to learn that he had another show coming out this year on Paramount Plus with a rock star cast of Pierce Brosnan, Tom Hardy, and Helen Mirren. And the 10 episodes we got were some of the best TV I have seen in a few years, and my gut is telling me it will go down as my favorite show of the year. So to start this video off, I will say that this show is not
No. What the fuck is that? What the fuck kind of shit chicken is that? Come on, let's go. Let's fucking chicken. Waddle like a fucking chicken.
as fun as The Gentleman or something like Lock, Stock, or Snatch. It doesn't have that same Guy Ritchie humor that you would expect, but it is still very much British gangsters in the underworld with unique personalities kind of beefing with each other after an incident kind of kicks things off. It is still Guy Ritchie dialogue and the occasional accent that is kind of hard for us Americans to understand.
The stylish house frame furniture and the scar cushions with the matching shark back cover. Yeah. Right. It's just terrible partial to the Periwinkle Blue, guys. Have I made myself clear, guys?
And even though it might not be the more traditional Guy Ritchie humor, there is still plenty of lines and moments and dialogue that gives a good smile and a heavy chuckle.
Do you like me, H?
Not really, no. I always thought you were a bit of a cunt.
The show is about an Irish crime family, the Harrigans, in England trying to break into the fentanyl game, which a rival crime family, the Stevensons, are currently controlling. Of course, things go wrong and people get hurt or worse, and a gang war is started. While that concept is not really new, the execution is very well done in terms of everything from the acting, writing, music, directing, cinematography, and even editing. And just because it's not an original concept, don't think you'll be able to predict everything. This show does a really good job of keeping you guessing. While you might guess an aspect of stuff, I doubt you will guess all the factors and details, like who's pulling some of the strings. It is a show that kept you guessing, but unfortunately, since I waited till the entire show is out to do a video, those that decide to check out the show now will miss out on the discussion about it week to week. It's no Game of Thrones when it comes to water cooler moments and theory discussions, but it is still one of the few shows in a long time to come out week by week and constantly making me want to talk about it and see what people think is going to happen. I am clearly not the only one either. The show did not come out swinging that hard to a large audience. It didn't even really chart, but as word of mouth spread every week, it did grow in popularity, eventually did chart, and hopefully will now get a season 2. And before I get on to the review to talk about characters and story, I just want you, my meager audience, to know that this show is fantastic. And to stop the video now and go watch the whole thing, and then maybe come back to this video. And also tell your friends about both the show and Three's Company. It really is a great watch with compelling stories, interesting and fun characters that you both love and hate, and it does stick the landing with a good setup for wanting more from the whole cast and crew. Well, MobLand does. Anyways, the jury's still out on this video.
That's your doing. You can't unsee it once you've seen it, can you?
No, you can't unsee it. It's nightmare fuel. That'll be with me forever.
Okay, the first thing I want to talk about with MobLand is the characters. This show is filled with unique and interesting characters that are only made better by the brilliant performance of their actors. You have the lead character, Harry de Souza, played by Tom Hardy. He is the fixer of the Harrigan crime family and a friend of the second eldest son, Kevin Harrigan, played by Keanu Reeves. Harry met Kevin in prison where they became good friends, and after getting out, Harry at some point started working with the Harrigan family. Those exact details and everything that happened in prison between those two is not really shown much in season 1, but I imagine you'll get more in later seasons. However, what they did give in the show and how the two act together with their entire dynamic is more than enough to buy into their friendship. But anyway, back to Harry. Harry is a man of few words, but is very smart and a master of navigating the criminal world. He is, of course, very intimidating, like most of Tom Hardy's characters, and is very capable of wreaking havoc. But the beauty of Harry is that he tends to solve most of the problems with his words. He knows when to throw the weight of the name Harrigan around or just enlighten people what will happen if he doesn't report back in, or just insult and intimidate in the classic gangster fashion, and much more. I personally, when watching this show, would go, okay, now it's time to see Harry go full gangster and start taking out people. And then he would open his mouth and just be so clever that I would go, nope, that was better. But don't get me wrong, you do see Harry pick up a weapon and go full bore, and it is a treat and exactly what you want from him. Although, while he might be an excellent fixer for a criminal family, he's not a very good fixer for his own family. Yep, Harry has a wife and daughter, and his relationship, primarily with his wife, is pretty strained. He is constantly being called to fix things for the Harrigans at the most inconvenient times for his wife, and just being associated with the Harrigans constantly puts his family in danger. So safe to say Harry's wife, Jan, played by Joanna Frogler, is pretty fed up with the whole thing. She tries her best to cope and does want to make the marriage work, but as everything really starts to ramp up, it is harder and harder for her, especially since she starts to integrate into the rest of the family a little bit more. And then speaking of the rest of the Harrigan family, you have Conrad, the head of the family, played brilliantly by Pierce Brosnan. He's a seasoned and proud Irish gangster that is known for his brutality, womanizing, and number of bodies he's buried. Conrad is reserved, right up until he isn't. There's always the sense that he could fly off the handle at any minute and unleash the full Conrad Harrigan everyone talks about. He is ambitious with his endeavors and relatively clever, but also his temper and wanting of people to fear him and his name can blind him sometimes and lead him to mistakes. And then there's his wife, Maeve, played by Helen Mirren. Oh, the things I want to say about Maeve. But they would be too specific and spoil a lot. Maeve is quite the character. She is an absolute monster, and I personally want her to get what's coming for her. But at the same time, I love watching it. She is one brutal bitch and a manipulator. She has a very specific idea of how a Harrigan should act and does not negotiate. She initially married the monster Conrad and wants everyone to become the monster Conrad. Together, Maeve and Conrad have 3 children, Brendan, Kevin, and Conrad's bastard daughter, Seraphina. Brendan is the oldest and kind of the black sheep of the family because he's a bit of a pussy and not very good at the whole mobster thing. Kevin is the second oldest and is more involved with the family, but also has his own wife and kid. And like Harry, he kind of wants to keep the wife and kid out of the parents' affairs and to give them more of a normal life while having a normal marriage. But that is pretty much impossible since he is an actual Harrigan. Throughout the show, Kevin clearly is competent in the family business, and even though he doesn't always agree with how it is run, he knows very much that his parents are monsters. And then there's his kid Eddie, who is already a monster. He is big-headed and ego-driven, and he's a real loose cannon, crazy kind of kid. He's kind of like the Joffrey Baratheon of the mob scene. And then Kevin's wife Bella, played by Laura Pulver, is a veteran of mobster wives. She has a lot more experience than like Jan, so she can navigate it more effectively, especially when she's up to her own schemes. She also has some sort of relationship with Harry that Kevin might not like. And then there's Serafina, the last of the characters on the Harrigan side, other than, of course, some minor goon and lackey characters who are also good, but not really going to touch on in this review.
Ein, two, three, car, cook. 6, 7.
As I said before, Serafina is the bastard daughter of Conrad, and that is something Maeve is not very fond of, and makes that very clear very often. But Serafina is very much loved by Conrad, since she seems to have the best brain for business. She's the one that actually cares the most about making money to prove herself, and is very good at it, so Conrad trusts her to kind of do what she wants to benefit the family, to Maeve's displeasure. And that is the end of the Harrigan family. The rest of the cast of characters include the Stevensons, the rival family of the Harrigans, that are feuding with them over the fentanyl game and want to see the Harrigans dethroned. Also, there's the team of cops trying to put them all away. There is more to say about all of them, but that would be kind of useless without context to the story, and that would get a little too spoilery. So I guess that is kind of like the spoiler warning for a potential vague hints at specifics, because I'm about to get into the story now, but still try to stay relatively spoiler-free. The story of MobLand Season 1, again, is just great. It has a decent amount of complexity, moving parts, subplots, and mystery, but it is very easy to follow, and it's all connected. I have heard it described as something like Guy Ritchie's Game of Thrones, and I think that is actually a pretty accurate way to describe it. No one is a good guy, the only differences is like level of evil. Like Harry, played brilliantly by Tom Hardy as the Fixer, has a little bit more of a moral compass and tries to at least minimize the bodies. But he is still absolutely not a good guy. And Pierce Brosnan, while he starts off kind of like the suave, older, charismatic leader, you soon learn that no, he is an insane, evil bastard, and holy shit, does Pierce Brosnan do a fantastic performance. He gets to really have some fun with this part, and he really shows off that he has more range than people think. And then there's Maeve. Again, she is just one evil, and Helen Mirren did an outstanding performance. I mean, arguably, Ray Stevenson, the main person the Harrigan is beefing with, was the most innocent. He was just a lonely fentanyl dealer and family man just minding his own business till the incident happens. And then from episode 1, and the start of the incident, the show stays really good at taking things to the next level while still being logical, all supported by the fantastic dialogue. I mean, the writing is just so much better than what we have gotten recently. No character suddenly changes who they are and makes like random decisions in order to move the plot forward. There are plenty of women in the show who are strong and not just insufferable girl bosses. They all have strengths and weaknesses, and they never like out physical strength a very clearly stronger man. They use their brains, charms, and quick wit to get what they want. And if a man flies off the handle, they show real fear and intimidation, knowing there's not much they could really do. And then there's just the structure of the show, which is done very well. Like every time a side plot seems to be a little weak or not going anywhere, a new element is introduced to revitalize it. It's very well balanced, and there's no real fluff. It's a pretty tight 10 episodes that is pretty satisfying, but still leaves plenty of meat and threads to make a season 2. And actually, it clearly expects to get a second season, and it really deserves it. So please, go check it out and tell your friends. It is such a good example of what a quality, low episode streaming show can be. It is pure Guy Ritchie showing what he can do when he wants to do a more serious show. And I am so excited to watch The Gentleman Season 2, and then hopefully the year after that, MobLand Season 2. So thank you, Guy Ritchie, for potentially making my year and just continuing to entertain.
Come on, what do you got for me? What do you got for me? Now make it quick, make it funny.
Like and subscribe.
Jeez, that's disappointing. No, not that.